In this lesson, we're going to go ahead and look at box and whisker plots, which is a type of way to show data. And right now, I've already got a set of data down here, and I have an imaginary box and whisker plot. This is actually not the right one for our data, but they look something like this. You've probably seen one in, maybe on a SAT test or any other article if you look at some statistics. Now, by the way, box and whisker plots can go this way. They can also go that way. But for right now, I'm going to keep mine horizontal, and they're fine either way. So what's the point of a box and whisker plot? Well, usually there are numbers here. Right here, there's a number here, a number here, and a number here, and a number here. If I was trying to organize my data, a lot of times I want to cut it in half. So this would be the point right here that would cut it in half. And so you know that as the median. Looking at my data here, if I was trying to describe this point, this is the median. And for my data, I can see I have 20 data points, and I went ahead, I like to number up and then backwards from each side, and I can find my middle would be right here. Since I have 2 points that are right at the middle, I have to make up a point in between them, which would be 10. In this case, my median is 10. Now, some kids have asked me, well, can I find the median by averaging these two numbers? Sure you can. 9 plus 11 is 20, divided by 2 is 10, so that works. Okay. Another part of the data that we want to describe is the beginning of the data. Our data, our minimum point, is 1. So my min is 1, and that goes right there. We like to describe the end point, which will be this point right here. We'll call that the max, which it is. And in this case, my max is 20. All right? So that gives me a rough idea on this box and whisker plot. So I have it cut in half, and then, so here's the first half of data, there's the second half of data. But what's with these things? Why do I have this side in 2 pieces and this side in 2 pieces? Well, what I'm trying to do is, after I cut my data in half this way, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut it in half again. So I have half there and half there. So I have 50% right there, and the same thing here. Okay? So this is going to tell me where I can find the first 25% of my data, the second 25%, the third 25%, and the last 25%. Okay, so how do I find this point right here? What would that point be? Oops. What do I call that point? Well, what I could do is take the first half of my data, okay, without the median, by the way. Now, that's sort of a tradition for your book. So sometimes we do include the median. In my AP Stats course, we tend to include the median. So when I have them calculated by hand, there it is. But for this class, your book said, oh, we're not going to include the median. You can go either way. Just like we spell color differently in the U.S. than we do in England, it's acceptable in each place. All right. So I'm going to take the first half of my data. How could I find that point right there? All right. Well, I could just take the median of this first half of the data. There are 10 data points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that tells you that my median is in between these two. In this case, the median would be 4. Well, but we're not going to call it median because that's too confusing. So what are we going to call this thing? We're going to call it Q1. All right? Because it marks off the first quarter of data. All right? So Q1 equals 4. All right? It's kind of like it's the median of the first half. All right? But we don't call it median. It's Q1. Okay. So that got me that number. So that probably gives you a clue as how we're going to look at the next number. This number right here, what is that? Well, let's go ahead and take the second half of data without the median. So if I did have an extra point, like a 10 right in there, or even an 11, I would leave it out. So my second half starts at 11. All right, let me make sure I got everybody. And I'll count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so my median for this set of data should be 18.5. But I'm not going to call it my median in this time. What should I call it? Should I call it Q2? No, Q2 is right there. Q2 is the median. So that marks off the second quarter data. What marks off the third? We're going to call it Q3. And in this case, it's 18.5. All right? So Q3 is 18.5. Okay, so now I have my box and whisker plot. I'm actually going to make one. This one's a little bit off. And give me just a second here. So this box and whisker plot's a little bit off, so I'm going to go ahead and draw a new one that's to scale. Here's 5. That's 15 and 20. All right, so my min is going to start at 1. We'll put it right there. And then I continue on to Q4, which is at 4. Then I do a box, start my box there. I'm going to go all the way up to 10. And then my next point, my maximum point is at 20, and then this other point's at 18.5, which is right there. I keep my box going. All right. This is called the IQ, well, this is the box and whisker plot. And these 5 numbers that I just used to do it are from the 5-number summary. So my 5-number summary is basically the first point, which is the min, the second point, which is Q1, the median, which is the third point, in this case 10, the fourth point, which is Q3, so that's 18.5, and the last point, which is the max, which is 20. All right, that's my 5-number summary right there. And that's all you need to draw a box and whisker plot if we're not worried about outliers. To learn about outliers, make sure you do the assignment. Should be D4 on WebAssign. All right. Now, the width of this box is special to us. We call this the IQR. However wide this box is, that's the IQR. So IQR is the width of the box that contains the middle 50% of data. All right. And it stands for interquartile range. IQR equals interquartile range. All right, which means it gives me the range of the middle quarters, this quarter to that quarter. All right. Now, how could I figure it out from the 5 numbers if I didn't have the data graph for me right there? Because here I could measure it, and I can see that it's roughly, looks like it's about 14.5. All right. But how could I do that without counting? Well, I know this end is Q3, and this right here, right? And this piece is Q1. So IQR is just Q3 minus Q1. And that is a measure of spread. So it behaves like standard deviation.